Hello, Wolfpack. We're finally seeing the first signs, the first real signs that I've been seeing of some sort of bullish momentum that could be building on Bitcoin. It doesn't mean a breakout's going to happen right away. In fact, it could mean a breakout still weeks away. But it does mean that there will be an actual real dead cat bounce at some point sooner rather than later, which I know I've mentioned in the past. But I did call in a previous video when we were down at 47k. I said we're down at 46.5k. Right down here, I said we're going to go for a dead cat bounce. Now we bounced up, went up to around 50k, 51k. We didn't quite do the full dead cat bounce that I wanted to see because, look, in order to have a downtrend, and I still think we're going to be trending downwards, right? But in order for that to actually be happening, we need to be having healthy bounces to refresh all of our indicators so we can go further down. Just like in an uptrend, you need healthy corrections to refresh your indicators so you can go further up, okay? Same thing in the downtrend. And right now, what I think we're seeing, even though we've just dropped down even further to around, 45.5k, 45.6k, for which I picked up some Bitcoin this morning, even though we've dropped further down, some of the indicators are telling us that we could be seeing a reversal quite soon. Now, the first thing I want to bring up in this video, which just doesn't stop getting mentioned amongst the bullish bias community on Twitter. I don't like calling them, the Bulls and the Bears, because it kind of does have that team mentality where it's us against them. But that's kind of what it is at the moment, to a certain extent. I want to say that the fear greed index being in a fearful state doesn't mean anything, right? It really doesn't. It means it has a small meaning. It's a supporting factor. Okay, obviously when the fear greed index is fearful, that tends to be an buying opportunity, but it doesn't mean at all that there's going to be an immediate bounce. I mean, look at here between May and July, through which I've said, this reminds me of May to July. I think that, and I still believe, and I've said this for a while now, a couple of weeks, that I think we're going to see a bear market, or at least a bearish phase in the market, similar to what we saw from May to July. And look how long this remained in fearful state from May to July. It literally lasted over 2 months, almost 3 months of being constantly in a fearful state below 30. Okay, we had 2 days when it was above 30. The rest was below 30 for 2 to 3 months. So to point at the fear greed indicator, and by the way, that whole time we were downtrending, right? That whole time, during that whole 2 month period, we went down gradually from 41k all the way to 28k, 29k, right? So we can downtrend and still have the fear greed index showing feed and still not bounce, right? We don't need to see, this massive rally just because we're fearful and the market's fearful, okay? That's why I don't really like that argument at all. I feel like that's one of the very few arguments that they actually have. But right now, what I'm seeing is another argument coming to life here, because I do see, in that for the first time in this entire downwards trend, we are seeing finally a bullish divergence on Bitcoin, right? And for those of you who know technical analysis, you know that this is the first sign of a reversal, not necessarily a macro reversal, but at least, as I said, a bounce, okay? And technically, we have managed to hold a higher low if we do bounce here. Now, if we go down to 40k, 42k, that's a different story. In that case, we will be seeing a head and shoulders pattern, and I think that's definitely a possibility. But right now, we've seen that bullish divergence, which is good to see, right? Because it means that a bounce will be incoming, and it kind of justifies my buying of Bitcoin at 46k. Now, I'm not bullish in the market, right, at all. I think that these bullish divergences can last a long time. For example, another example is in May, right? In this very similar state, we were trending downwards for a long period of time. The whole time we were seeing bullish divergence. It didn't lead to anything, right? It led to a little bounce from 31k to 41k, but ultimately it led to nothing, and we just came back downwards, right, within a matter of weeks, right? So that's ultimately what I'm expecting to happen, okay? A little bounce and then just coming back downwards. I really don't think the market right now is too different to what it was at, in May to July, right? We have the bullish divergence playing out. It might play out for a little bit longer. We might see a breakout to the upside, potentially to 53k, maybe even all the way up to the top, the bottom of this resistance line here, and then dropping back down or something, or, something like that, but I think 53k would be a hard nut to crack. Right now, in the short term as well, we do have, well, in the long term, sorry, but I'll speak about the short term in a second. The MACD is obviously resetting to levels we haven't seen since around May, and hence, we are due for a bullish MACD cross at some point. That doesn't mean it's going to happen immediately, though. And this is a big problem that I have with the bullish argument right now. Another thing you could say with it is the Bollinger Bands. Well, we've been trending to the downside of the Bollinger Bands for about a month, right? And usually you don't see large downtrends of the Bollinger Bands for that long without a relief rally. all of them, suggest that a relief rally is coming and that a bounce is coming. What I think is going to be a dead cat bounce, but I do think a bounce is coming. But the problem is, none of them can actually pinpoint when exactly that is going to happen, because all of the indicators we are given right now are oscillators, which mean that essentially we don't know exactly when it's going to happen. Right now, the daily close that we just saw is very misleading. All right, what we saw on the daily close and what we've seen actually is a very, very bearish price movement. I don't know how anyone can call this bullish, right? We dropped below 53k first of all. Let me make this a different color so you guys can see. I'll make it orange. All right, so we dropped below 50. Wait, hold on 1 second. Sorry, we dropped below 53k first of all. We dropped below the major uptrending level of support, which is the yellow line, okay? We came up, we retested the yellow line from a downside, failed to get back over it, saw massive red candles all the way back down to the 200-day SMA, right? We bounced off a 200, rejected again off of a smaller term symmetrical triangle, okay? And now we have actually come down and we've just barely managed to hold the 200-day SMA for support, and we're seeing a little bounce off the bottom of it. This is a questionable close here. Technically, we were just below it, right? But I would say it held for support. It wasn't convincing enough for me to say it hasn't held. So we're holding that for support, and that is kind of one of the last hopes before this downtrending resistance line, support line, and then 40 to 42k below that. So if we lose for 200-day SMA on the daily chart, close below it, which is definitely a possibility at this point. Right, what will be next is we'll be retesting this white line here. If we lose that, we're going straight to 40 to 42k. It will probably happen very quickly. Now, another bearish thing I'm seeing about, well, I guess you could say that's a bullish thing, right? The bullish thing that we said just there is that, well, we're holding the 200-day for support right now currently, and that's good to see. But we do have to keep into account we did just reject off a 200-day EMA, and we saw one large candle. It was eaten up by the bottom, but that's good to see. At least we're holding some sort of support here. But that very much is one of our last lines of defense on Bitcoin that we're going to be seeing here. Let's remove the MACD and the RSI, and let's remove the Bollinger Bands, and we can see if we bring up the bull market support band, which is basically the main thing I'm looking at right now, and as well as these SMAs right now, is that the bull market support band is currently still trending right next to this uptrending level of support, and it's probably going to be curving downwards now. We've seen a cross, and it's curving to the downside, and so we do need to get above that uptrending level of support and the bull market support band as soon as possible. The longer we downtrend below that, the more likely it is we're going to see something like May to July, or even worse, when we go all the way down to 30k, 25k. All right, so we are in a bit of a desperate situation on Bitcoin. There are indicators telling us that a reversal is coming, but there's no clear indication as to where that will be, especially due to the fact that this recent candle has brought us to a point in which the volume is rising again, and when volume rises in a downtrend, it means that the selling pressure is no longer slowing down. Right, so we want to see that volume come right down, and when we see a rally, we want to see the volume come right back up again as buy interest gets back in the market. Don't get me wrong, guys. I want this to be bullish as much as you, right? I will make so much more money if the market is bullish, if we re-enter a bull market. But I genuinely just don't think it looks too good right now. And I think that a dead cat bounce doesn't mean anything. If we go up to 53k, who cares, right? Who cares? The downtrend is still very much in place. The only thing that, in my opinion, as I've said in multiple videos, I'll continue to say it because Bitcoin is the only thing I care about right now. The only thing I've said is that 61k is a critical zone for us to actually fully confirm that we're back into a bull market, right? 61k, I'll mark it right here, and I'll tell you why. All right, and you guys have probably heard me say this 10 times now. I don't care. I'll continue to say it. 61k is what I'm looking at. If you wanted to be an aggressive investor, and you probably would stand a good chance of making profits regardless, right? You would wait for a break above this yellow line again, because breaking above this yellow line, this uptrending level of support, would flip the bull market support band, flip the 200-day EMA, flip the 50-day SMA by the time we get there, right? And also flip the uptrending level of support, right? So everything would be flipped once we get over this yellow line, right? Keep in mind this red line would come all the way down here, flip the support. We'd look good, but the reason why I wouldn't be buying back in yet is because we'd still be in a downwards trend, right? We'd still be making, lower highs, and so flipping over this blue line, 61k, would actually, confirm a flip of this entire downwards construction that we've been seeing, and it would put us back into the very ultra bullish range in which we can start attacking all-time highs again. Now, if we do get above 53k and we hold above it and we close, say a couple daily candles above it, I will buy back partially, but 61k is pretty much my ultimate buyback zone. I don't really have a reason to be risky right now. There's no point. All right, because I'm not seeing the market looking too good, and I don't want to get caught in by a fake out. Because at some point, as I said, there will be a dead cat bounce. There will be a short squeeze, but I'm just not convinced as of current, in the current state of the market, what I'm seeing currently, that would be an excellent kind of opportunity to buy back in yet, unless we actually confirm some breakouts. Now, let's go to the weekly chart here, because we have some stuff to talk about in the weekly chart that we will continue talking about every day. Apologies if my video is getting a bit repetitive right now. It just really is I'm sure we can all agree, Bitcoin is the most important thing in the market right now. Altcoins don't really matter, right? I don't care about altcoins right now. I care about Bitcoin. If we remove some of this stuff, we can take away, take away that, and we'll bring up the Bollinger Bands. And we can see that the Bollinger Bands are consistently tightening, which means that when, it's like, for example, I use this example quite a bit, a beach ball being held under the water, right? The longer you hold it there or the further down you push it, the higher it's going to jump out of the water when it comes up, right? We're tightening, we're compressing. The more we compress, the more we're going to jump up or jump down potentially when the trigger moment occurs, and we're just waiting for that trigger moment. Now, right now we are actually below the 50-week SMA, and the 50-week SMA is currently at 47.7k. Now, this is very important because if we do close a weekly candle below 47.7k, there is a very, very small chance that we will continue an upwards trend at all, right? The 50-week SMA is quite possibly the most important zone that the bulls are relying on right now to hold us, because the 50-week SMA historically gives us nice bounces, okay? We can see that every time we test the 50-week, even in a downwards trend, even for a dead cat, we see a bounce off of it. Every time we drop below it, we see a downtrend, we reject, and we just go further down. You can go back and look at it yourself. Every time we, substantially drop and close below the 50-week SMA, which is this red line, we enter a downwards trend, right? Close below it substantially, enter a downwards trend. And, that has been the key vital confirmation moment for a bear market. So if we close below it this week, 47.7k, we are in deep trouble for Bitcoin, and my prediction will play out. Now, if we hold above it for another week, that would probably be an indicator that relief rally is on the way, and we might come down and test it again in the future. But it really is the most pressing thing for Bitcoin. We've got 6 days to hold 47.7k. Now, if we go down, I personally don't care. I'll buy cheap Bitcoin. If we go up, sick, I make more money, all right? So get yourself into a position if you haven't already, or try to. I know some of you can't because you haven't sold out and you're just holding negative bags, and that sucks, right? But what you need to do in the future then is my advice. Get yourself in a position to profit regardless of the situation, and the only way to do that is learn how to and identify market tops and market bottoms, right? I was bearish or cautious. I wouldn't say I was bearish. That's probably a stretch, right? I don't want to lie. I was cautious, and I was selling positions all the way back up here at 63k, okay? Because at 63k, what we just did is we topped out at 66k. We formed a higher low. I gave it 3k of lead room, and I started selling at 63k, and hence we continued to see a massive drop down, a steep downhill pattern. So right now, you have to understand my personal situation is I'm not overly concerned about getting back into the market right now because I sold out so early. All right, so I'm actually re-entering slowly into Bitcoin because Bitcoin's something I'm going to hold long term, regardless of what happens in the short term. I don't care what happens in the short term, and so I'm not particularly interested in altcoins right now until we actually start taking back some fundamental resistance levels and flip them as support. So essentially, the premise of this video is there's still overwhelming bullish momentum, overwhelming bullish indicators, but we are starting to see some glimpses of bullishness. But ground yourself, right? Because as I've said in this video, there's no real indication as to when they will trigger. So what I'm kind of suggesting, what I'm watching in this video, and what I'm trying to tell you to watch, first of all, the 200-day SMA, very important to keep closing above it if we're going to see bullish price action. And second of all, which is basically the most important thing happening in the market right now, we need to hold the 50-week SMA on the weekly chart with a weekly candle in order to see sustained bullishness. Otherwise, we will enter a bear market or a bearish phase in the market. Even in July and May, or May to July, we didn't even lose that. So you can imagine what would happen if we lose that. We'd definitely go down all the way to 30k, my personal opinion, at least. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.